Hello, this is Ari. I haven't made a video in a few months. The last time was during quarantine when the whole nation was in lockdown, and I felt like maybe starting a YouTube channel to just talk about what I like and true crime. And so I felt like maybe I should make a new video and talk about some things that have come out in the media within the last few months and what has caught my eye, what I want to talk about. I think the first main thing I'm going to go over is Unsolved Mysteries. As you know, this was a popular show from the 80s and 90s until it ran until 2002, and it was hosted by Robert Stack. There was like maybe 12 or 13 or 14 seasons. It ran from 1987 to 2002. And like I said, it was very popular and beloved, and when I was a kid I watched it, and it was basically like my favorite show. And then after it went off the air and Robert Stack died the next year in 2003, nothing was made. Like, oh, a new host filled in, or the show was picked up at another channel. It just like stayed dormant, and reruns were playing on Lifetime and whatnot, until like 2008 when Spike TV rebooted the series, and it was hosted by Dennis Farina, which was like a television and movie actor. He was already like in his 60s, this guy. And like I said, Spike TV did a reboot, but it was basically the cases that were already featured on Unsolved Mysteries. They were recycled on the show, and it was just like Dennis Farina moving in as host and just, telling what it was, but it was just recycled cases from the original Unsolved Mysteries run. So basically it wasn't really a reboot, but just another redundant look at the cases they already profiled, which was weird. And so I remember when that came out in 2008, 2009, and I was like, okay, what is the point of this? But it happened, right? Can't say that it didn't, but it did. Yeah, this wasn't really popular, and it wasn't on the air for too long, from what I recall. And of course, anyone who wants to slide in Robert Stack's seat, it's just like, you can't do that. You can't replace the irreplaceable. So there's that. And so, after the true crime wave boom that happened, Serial and all these podcasts came out, and I talk about a list of true crime podcasts you should listen to. That was actually my first video I put up. And so, after this true crime boom in 2014, and all these new documentaries are coming out, there's just a lot more media and material about cases that is being put out there. And so this past summer in July, Netflix did a reboot on Unsolved Mysteries, and this was something I was really looking forward to. And the day it came out, I binged all 6 episodes in one day. So that goes to show you that it did live up compared to the Dennis Farina version on Spike TV. So basically it was 6 episodes, and actually all of them I'd never heard about. So like that's a that's a good calling card. Like, and I read up on a lot of cases, and I try to stay informed on what is being put up out there on Twitter, Facebook, you know, pages that I follow that talk about cases and investigations. So to have all 6 episodes go over crimes that I've never heard about is a thumbs up for me, because, you know, it surprised me. It wasn't predictable. I didn't know what I was getting into. So Netflix like really did good on their part. The first episode, it was on Ray Rivera, and that was the married guy who died in Baltimore, and he fell off the hotel way high, a bunch of floors off the roof, and like fell through a hole and just died. People suspect that he killed himself or that he was murdered. And you know, right off the bat, when this is episode 1, I'm just like, whoa, they started off with a bang, like literally. But yeah, the Ray Rivera case is pretty mysterious, and off the bat, when these episodes came out like that created a lot of discussions among the true crime community. And I've seen like several podcasts talk about it, including True Crime Garage, which they put out this week. So, and normally, if this show came out like 5 years ago, I would have like read every article, watched every show, and like listened to every podcast that would go into this particular case. But at this point in my life, I just feel like I don't have all the bandwidth to just listen to everyone's opinion and thoughts on a popular case like this. It's just like, I already know what happened. I already heard the version on Netflix and might have read a few articles more afterwards. But it's just like, people who go over it over and over again, it's just like, I can't do that anymore. But, you know, if this is one of your pet cases, you should definitely, you know, do a Goog and, you know, listen to the prosecutors at True Crime Garage and what have you, like. But, you know, I don't know what happened to this guy. It looks like suicide from one angle, and then does look like murder. I don't know. So that was episode 1. And then the next, episode 2 was on the Georgia mother who disappeared one day while working at her hair salon job in 2004. And basically she disappeared for around a year and a half, and she had a young teenage son at the time, and he didn't know what happened. He suddenly didn't have a mother around, and during this time, the lady was married to a guy, kind of maybe like a decade older than her, and what was I gonna say? Yeah, this is her second marriage to this guy, so he wasn't the father of her teenage son. And then once she disappeared, like, this guy like kicked the kid out of the house, never allowed him back in. He was way suspicious off the bat, and then basically in December of 2005, her remains were found, like, I want to say 5 or 10 miles away from her hair salon job. And the authorities don't really know the cause of her death because by then, you know, the remains have been really decomposed at that point. So they couldn't determine the cause or manner of death and how long she had been there in the woods like that. As far as I know, when you watch that episode, her ex-husband, you know, he is strikingly suspicious. Like, either you'll think he's eccentric or just the killer. There's no other way. And I think he did it, but who knows? There might be some other shady characters in that area where she was living, and it might have been a random opportunity, a random kidnapping that happened, and she was killed for it. Who knows? But I have my eyes on the ex-husband, and I remember a particular scene in episode 2 where he says he was able to get her cremated, and he's in possession of her ashes, and really has kept to himself, and he never he hasn't shared it with anyone else, like the son or like other family members of hers, and that was weird. But yeah, those are my thoughts on episode 2. And then the third one is pretty different because this is the first time that Unsolved Mysteries goes over a case that is foreign, and this it takes place in France, and it had to do with this well-to-do nice family, the mom and dad, and they had I want to say 2 or 3 biological children, and the lady had one older son from a different relationship, but you know, it was part blended family, very nice, well-to-do. And one day the family disappears, and after a week of searching the house, the surroundings, police see outside on the floor, on the ground, the dead bodies of the mom, 2 sons, and daughter are found, and I believe they might have been mutilated, but I'm not sure. Maybe, yeah, something. It was graphic. So they're finally found, but they're dead. Cops don't know where the guy is, the dad. And it turns out, based on they find through CCTV and stuff, and looking back at his actions before the murders, his behavior, he was learning how to shoot firearms and all these things, that he's pretty much the main person responsible for their deaths. And like I said, through the CCTV, they caught him driving around, and I think walking some places alone after the murders. So this guy is still on the run. I don't know if he's alive. Maybe. I think the last thing that the cameras found were him parking a car in the countryside of France and just walking away, and they don't know where the hell he went. I think he had a gun with him. They think maybe he killed himself in the elements, wherever that is in the country. And they also think maybe he just has started a different life all these years later, and he's essentially another John Lewis, but the French version. And if you don't know who John List was, he was this family man from 1971 who killed his entire family, the wife, his mom, his kids, and just, murdered them and disappeared. And he was a fugitive. And then, in like 1988 or 1989, he was captured. And during that time, he had a new family. He was married to a different woman. That case took place in New Jersey, and I don't know where else he was living at, but he was caught thanks to being featured on America's Most Wanted. And, yeah. So that case reminds me of John List, and another one that's been on Unsolved Mysteries, Robert Fisher, who killed his entire family in 2001 in Arizona. He murdered his wife and 2 young kids, a girl and a boy. Basically, I think like killed them in their sleep and like cut their throats or something, and like burned down their house and made this whole arson thing. He's still on the run 19 years later. So yeah, those 2 guys that I just mentioned, it reminds me of the French guy who's featured in episode 3. Recently in the news, it was said, a sighting of the French guy was possibly seen in Chicago. I don't know if that's true. I think like a lot of this guy looks pretty basic. He looks like your average white guy. So maybe it's just a case of another John Doe that looks like him. I don't know. But whenever it has to do with these guys who murders their entire family, like, I don't know. Like, it could go either way. It makes me think of Chris Watts and Josh Powell. Like, either one of them is gonna kill their family or pretend nothing happened and go about their life, or they're so devastated by what happened but still so narcissistic that they're still gonna kill themselves right after. So yeah, that 3rd episode wasn't really my favorite, just because of, it takes place in France, but I think it's still interesting just because of these connections that it reminds me of other cases I know. So then episode 4, it had to do with, it took place in like rural Missouri, and this young guy, 23 years old, his name was Alonzo, was a black guy. He attends a party far from home. I wanted to say like more than 50 miles away. He didn't have his own car, but he went to this random party one day in 2004, and he goes there with some friends. There might have been some kind of incident, some racial incident while he was there. And then the friends leave him, whatever, but he never returns home that following night, and his family reports him missing, and they try to look for him, and eventually, in one of those searches that families conduct, his own relatives actually do find him dead in the woods, and he was like face down in like a body of water. It was a small body of water, not like, a lake or something, but like, I don't know what to describe. But basically his own family found him dead, and it's believed that he might have like been killed for a hate crime. Yeah, so whoever did this hasn't been identified. It's like the Ray Rivera case where they can't tell if like he was just like walking home from the party, maybe tried to get a ride, or I don't know, tried to find his way out of that town and became lost, and he, you know, went somewhere to cool off, and I don't know, he died in the elements. Yeah, it's like that. Like, I can't tell if it's suicide or murder, but I want to say it's murder just because, yeah, that's my feeling. And then the next one, episode 5, it's a UFO-based case that took place in, I want to say 1969 or 1968 in Massachusetts, I believe. And I'm not a really big fan of alien cases or UFOs. I know that they were like super popular and adored on the original run of Unsolved Mysteries. But I don't know, I wouldn't say I'm a believer, but when I was a kid, like, I thought that was so cool, to think that aliens might be around. I don't know, I like believe in them, but I just feel like maybe a lot of those stories that were mentioned on the original run might have been fake, or half of them might have been fake, because in today's time, like, no one really talks about UFOs or tries to record something on their phone and says, oh, like, that's a UFO, it's a flying saucer. Like, no one does that, and we all have phones. But back in the day, it was just like, if someone saw something in the sky with lights on, it's like, oh my god, it's probably an alien, I have to record it. But anyways, back to my point. Episode 5, it talks about this old UFO case in New England where this community witnessed, I don't know, a flying saucer. And this episode was like my least favorite just because, I don't know, like, what is the mystery here? They could be lying. I have no idea. I thought that episode was cool, but like, I just feel like justice doesn't really need to be served in this matter, you know? But whatever works. If you liked it, that's cool with me. And then the final and 6th episode had to do with this missing young woman who disappeared in 2006, and there's a little bit of a crazy backstory to it that has to do with her own mother. I believe the girl's name was Lena, and she had like 3 or 4 sisters. And all being raised by her single mom. But the mom had like a history of having boyfriends and men around in her life. And the woman like had multiple marriages, by the way. And in one of those, she married a guy in like the late 90s. And originally, she had been previously married or been a girlfriend to that guy's brother. So she was already with his brother, and then like broke up with him, moved on, and married the other brother. And I don't know, I guess problems started happening in their marriage, and he disappears one day in 1999. and her family doesn't know what happened. And actually immediately, not long after that, she starts seeing a different dude, and I think she eventually marries him as well. So this guy, he disappears. I think I said that it took place in Missouri, right? Like, this is like the Ozarks and shit. So, yeah. So he disappears, but then it's being learned that one of the daughters, Lena, knows what happened. She saw what happened, and throughout the years, like, she supports and defends her mom, but doesn't really say anything. And then as she's growing up, she kind of changes her tune and starts to tell people what happened, and that she was there, and that she feels awful because she was a child and she felt like she couldn't do anything about it. You know, there's a scene that shows her being recorded, and she talks about what happened to the guy that I think she shot him on the couch while he was eating food, and they burned his body, and the mother made the daughter help her, you know. But she was like an unlawful accomplice because she was a child. And so throughout those years, she starts to open up and goes against her mom. And at some point in 2006, 7 years after the guy disappears, Lena vanishes as well, and it's very suspicious, and the family pretty much thinks the mom's involved. And especially after knowing that when Lena had a child, her mom took custody of that child when Lena disappeared. So it's very weird and suspicious. And yeah, I do think the mom did it. And I'm pretty sure those two people are dead. But I hope they're found, you know, just to add closure to the family. So yeah, that's my little summary on the Netflix reboot. I loved it, and Volume 2 is supposed to come out on October 19th. 19th? Yeah. So I'll definitely keep my eyes out for that. And yeah. I think maybe I'll talk about some other things that have caught my eye in the true crime world, but the return of Unsolved Mysteries was really pretty awesome, and it lived up to my expectations. I know that, you know, Robert Stack is dead, and he was irreplaceable, but seeing the return of this show is just, it lives up, and it made me happy. So yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't, especially before Volume 2 comes out. And also, if you would want to watch the original Unsolved Mysteries run, they give episodes on Pluto TV, on IMDb TV, from what I know. Also, all of the seasons are on YouTube for free. And I think that's it. So if you're feeling nostalgic and you want to watch some good old Unsolved Mysteries, turn to those platforms, because they will definitely be there. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.